No, it's not. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I was just saying to Deb that the dog's not allowed in the bedroom. For simple reason, Deb, for some reason, about 3 weeks ago, I was in bed and he looked at the door and the door moved and he tracked something right across my room. His eccles were up, he was snarling, he was snapping.
Nice.
And up until that point, he's always come in the room. It's normally in there when I'm working. Now, as soon as he crosses the threshold, he's on point, like completely on point. Yeah. So it's like he's changed his behaviour, hasn't it, Mark?
Yeah. Bless him.
Yeah, so we had to pull cupboard drawers out and everything. So he's a bit skittish because he don't want to go in there now and lie down as he normally would.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot of folk in, haven't we? We have got a lot of folk in. So you asked for it, and me and Deb are back. It's not been easy getting our schedule together, has it?
No, but we're back.
But we are back. So for anyone who's used to listening to the premiere, you will have heard all of Deb's experiences, or some of Deb's experiences when she shared them kindly with me in voice messages. So if you don't mind, Deb, will you tell us about that night when you were driving and you got that ominous feeling?
Which one are we on about?
When you were coming back from York.
Oh,
Yeah.
Honestly, Deb, I can't. It kind of hit me 7 miles from home. This uneasy feeling, and I was wide awake. I was driving. I had the radio on. He was asleep. Window down. I was smoking and whatever. There was nothing to worry about. We were going home. I was ready for bed because I like to read before I go to sleep. And this 7 mile thing just smacked me. And I started getting, when you've got a feeling that something horrible is going to happen, you get that horrible gut feeling. And I just couldn't understand why. And the closer I got to home, the worse it got. And then, like I say, when I got it wrong, actually, in the voice note, it was actually 2 lanes coming up, 1 lane going down, but that doesn't make much difference anyway. It's a 3-lane road. But yeah, when I got to that roundabout, I was petrified. And it was almost like, do I want to continue or do I want to turn round? But I'd already committed myself then. There was no way of turning round. And then, like I say, I got down to the bottom of the hill and I just saw this thing and I thought, I can't look at it. I'm going to die. If I look at that, I will die. It was horrible. And like I say, driving, I sped past it. And then when I looked in my mirror, it just stepped out into the road. And it was huge.
So it was definitely there to scare you, wasn't it? It was making a point of showing itself to you.
Well, it was making a point of letting me know it were there before I even saw it. Yeah. I'm presuming. HB said something in the chat on the video about things being able to get to you beforehand.
Yeah, they'll project out and pick up anything or anyone that's out there that can pick up on them. Yeah, and then it's like a predator in it. They're on you like a mouse, a cat and a mouse.
Yeah. And it's funny when I was talking about getting the letter from this lad, I could read. He didn't say a lot in the first letter, and he just put, "I had an experience the same as yours, near to, near." And I thought, so I wrote back to him. This was the second letter that he sent me that detailed everything. I said to him, "Would you like a phone call?" And he went, "I'm not confident about talking on the phone." I said, "Well, can you please write to me and put it in?"
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it was kind of the same area. I wasn't expecting it to be 400 metres down the bloody road from where I lived. I was expecting it to be the same sort of area.
Yeah, that's too close to home, that, isn't it?
And then I'd forgotten to include that. I did. I was contacted by somebody and he said, "I have been trying to reach you for the last 20 odd years.
Right.
And I've finally tracked you down about my sighting." Him and his brother did a local podcast called Kraken Cove.
Right.
And they covered all these sort of paranormal things. And his brother was obsessed with my story because if I'd have carried on up the hill from turning off that night to
go home,
if I'd have carried a little way up the hill, there's one of those big road signs with the 2 legs that come down. His brother had driven past there and there was something crouching under the sign. He thought it was a pile of black bags.
Right.
He went up to the roundabout, he came back round, he drove back down in the middle of the night again, and it had gone. It had gone.
Right.
So
I got
like
my map out and I was like, right, where's the route? Where's it moving? And it's that bloody river. The river. Was it the Aire? Yeah. It's the river. There's sightings on either south and west and east of it, Deb.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's prairie land. Crowley messed about down there, didn't he? He had there's a Crowley connection, isn't there?
There is with the there was that temple of the Golden Dawn.
So anything could have been summoned, you know, or anything could have been opened. Or
and it's funny because when I went to investigate that that Temple of the Golden Dawn, I was stood. The people that I were with had gone to, one of the people had gone to take photographs of the actual temple, which had changed. It changed to, I can't remember what it is, White Eagle Lodge or something now. It's a different thing. But we were stood having a cig at the wall opposite on the little road. And I looked down over the wall and it was maybe an 8-foot drop into the field. The field was grass. There was no cattle on it. There was no animals on it at all. And there was a good 10 foot of behind the wall, the trees around the edge of the field. And there was wild garlic that had been squashed flat and it looked like a big bull had been laid there.
Right.
There was a patch of wild garlic the size of a bull laid on its side.
That takes me right back to Beulah. If I smell wild garlic, I'm there. I'm right back because it was in the sensory garden.
Yeah.
So it must have been around the same time of year. It must have been early springtime. Well, like now, isn't it? Really around this time.
Yeah, this time of year.
Because you said mist coming in off the field, so that's probably about right, isn't it, for now?
Yeah, yeah. And then we walked, I mean, this was broad daylight. We walked down to the bottom of Knott Lane where this temple is. And as we came to nearly the bottom, there's a wall and then there's like a heavily wooded area. I wouldn't say it's a forest. It's only small.
Yeah.
But we could hear something on 2 feet tracking us. And then when we turned around, because it leads into a new housing estate now, it didn't used to. So we turned around to walk back up the lane and we could hear it tracking us again up this patch of woodland. There's something down there.
They only need a little bit of nature, don't they? They just need a little bit.
And it's funny because at the other side of that, we didn't know it existed. I mean, we partly went into somebody's garden to get to it. We went up some really old stone steps that were all, when they're like shallow and then wide and then shallow and wide. We went up these steps and we followed this little pathway and went under a holly arch and we ended up looking down on like a bit of a street, a bit bigger than a stream, not a river, a bit bigger than a stream. And this really quiet area. And at the other side of that is the main road and we couldn't hear any cars at all. Completely silent.
A little oasis.
Proper little oasis. Nobody would ever know you were there.
Right.
And there were big fallen tree trunks. I mean, huge. Not maybe the size of an oak, but massive, big tree trunks. Sort of laid that made like a natural seating area. It was the weirdest little oasis.
See, honestly, that's all they need. People, I shared Selena's story last week.
Yeah.
To jump on that really quickly, I had to drop everything because it was affecting her daughter. Her daughter's 13. And she said it's not a massive amount of woodland outside the house. And I said, they don't need a massive amount of woodland. They just need nature. They need some area of nature.
Yeah.
And then they do whatever it is they do so that we can see them.
Yeah.
And it's just I think it's a land, I think it's a land anyway. And it's all like mixed up and they built on it and they built motorways on it and new houses on it. And it's like something gets like Eshol, like the energy at Eshol. They've got the areas are so close together.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to be. It knock you over, knock you off your feet, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I got sell my chair, didn't I? And just it was like somebody went.
Yeah, it was. It was the same for me. My legs went as soon as I got out of the car.
Yeah.
Mark was driving and you were in another car. So we went in car together. I knew you never told me where your experience was. And I don't know the area at all. We were flying blind. So we had to use a sat nav to get to your house.
Yeah.
Had a brew, didn't we? And we left. And as we left, we were driving, everything was fine. And I said to Mark, oh God, it's there.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know, like that slime that kids play with. It was like driving into that.
Yeah.
black and horrible. And then I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's where she is. So when we pulled up at Eshot, my knees were going anyway. And I just found it really hard to get out the car. And it's like that, innit? It's proper steep. So
yeah. We did well that day to get up that. We couldn't have gone any further than that because it went further up, didn't it? But that was where the brooding energy was, right up at the top.
Yeah, it was brooding. When it was awful, it was menacing.
But then it was they'd built a BMX track right through it, hadn't they? And there were bloody litter everywhere, and so we sort of came to the conclusion that it felt disrespected, whatever it was.
It is disrespected, isn't it? There's a bloody sewage works there and everything. It's like modern humans walking dogs on it. There was dog poo bags everywhere, wasn't there? I don't think we realise that some of these areas still have these ancient things attached to. And it just, for me, it just kept, there was no way was it letting me get an handle on it. And I was a little bit scared, and that's unusual for me too. I'm usually a bit better than that, but it was like, fucking hell, it was like so strong.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, my phone's trying to make me do it because I'm doing hand gestures. It's trying to type for me. Hand gestures.
Mike actually asked in the chat, did you get the feeling it was an ancient energy?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how I felt at the time. Probably now I would pick up on that, but back then, I mean, I was always into the paranormal and stuff, but I wouldn't have been as deep. I wasn't as deep into it as I am now. So back then, I probably wouldn't have recognised that. But if I think about it now, it probably was, yeah.
I felt it before. That's why a place in Ayrshire. We'll talk about it in a bit. Where this James got in touch with me, this guy, and I worked that case. Oh, it was a few years ago now, probably about 10 years ago now. And it was the same kind of being, and that kind of. And if I had to describe him, Mike, I would say something like a cross between a minotaur and a dogman. Just this massive bulk of solid muscle. But every time you try and look at it, it turns. So you can't actually see it. And like with some beings, once you see them, you can overcome your fear, can't you? So you can fight back. But when it kind of cloaks itself, it adds another level of spooky. So it just, to me, that's what it felt like. It just felt like, oh my God, as if someone went in and did a really good clean up and then just went in and said like, right, we're sorry, we're really sorry, we didn't realise. I'll come once a month and lay flowers and say thanks, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it's near Abbeyland, it was definitely important to us in early days. Definitely important to us. And there is a big abbey there, even though I got the name wrong.
Yeah, Kirkstall Abbey, it's quite a big ruins, actually. It takes up a bit of area, and there's still quite a lot of it left. There's a lot of... I did go on we used to have we still have got it, but I can't log back in. We've got a website called Secret Leads, and there's a paranormal section of that, and I put my story in there. And a few people have said round that area, if they've pulled up a bit of a lover's lane kind of thing, if they've pulled up, they haven't hung around long because of strange noises and strange, like somebody walking round when they couldn't see anybody. And so there's definitely that area, that it's a triangle in it, because if you go to the top where the roundabout is at the top, you turn left, which we will have done to go to Eschol.
Yeah. Up
there, apparently a woman nearly hit a dog man that ran across the road in the car.
Yeah, was that at Rawdon, Deb?
Rawdon. Yeah. And not far on from that is the one you told me about, up near the airport. That bloke whose parents were at Parents Farm.
Yes, Parents Farm in Yeardley.
No, Yeadon.
That's it, Yeadon, yeah. They kept dogs, big dogs from what I can remember. And something was coming right up to the farm and like upsetting the dogs.
Yeah.
And like Kiz, I don't know if I've seen Kiz tonight.
No, I haven't seen Kiz.
Is he about? Well, he had the similar thing. The growl came.
Yeah.
It came from outside the house, but they could feel it within the house. And then just his mum then, when Dad passed away, Mum was there on her own, and he had quite some concerns because Mum was there on her own. And the dogs were reacting like that. And honestly, the last 2 years, Deb, everything I've done has been people who, like me and you, who've had an experience of one kind or another. And then at some point it starts to happen around the house.
Yeah.
And like
drawing in.
Yeah, and we went through it. Bob was the first one to pick up on it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That there was something not right in that garden. I mean, we were on phone conversations when something just, it were awful, wasn't it? It was like a black cloud almost,
Yeah.
like we were waiting for it to happen kind of thing.
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
That photo that you took,
what,
you
love?
took a photo and it looks like two eyes are looking at you through the bloody window.
Yeah. I could feel it, because like I say, that were the day that it all sort of kicked off, when the penny dropped and I got those photographs. It was so hard. I was holding my hand and my phone, my arm and my phone, and it must have taken me 70 attempts to try and get some decent photographs, because they were just blur. I couldn't focus. Once I focused in and went to press it, it blurred again.
Yeah.
So I turned it off, turned it back on. No, it was obviously something. But then that night that I messaged you and I said I don't know what the hell to do, because I could feel it, just waves of this black energy. It was horrible.
It's like the biggest fight of your life.
Yeah.
How do you fight against something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a human, don't you? Like this little human who, how the hell am I supposed to combat all of this, like on my own kind of thing?
Yeah.
And it's strength of will, and I think it's that strength of will that attracts us to them.
Yeah.
Because when you're frightened, it's another level of scared, isn't it? I mean, for me to be scared, it's got to be really scary, you know? So if there was a being out there that wanted that adrenaline, that wanted that like grade A, whatever it is it wants, then it's going to come for somebody like me and you.
Yeah.
If it's a weaker being, then it starts like with me as a kid in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then progresses. So when I was talking last week to Selena's daughter, she'd seen things coming out of the crack in the wall. That was exactly the same for me.
Yep. Yeah.
Exactly the same. And just being in your bedroom at night terrified, horrible.
Yeah, because your bedroom's your little sanctuary, innit? You go to bed and you get comfy and you go to sleep. And well, that was my first experience, bedroom stuff, when I was a kid.
Do you mind sharing a bit of that, Deb?
No, it's funny because it was only during a conversation. I'd thought that the bit that I'll talk about in a minute was the first thing that had happened in the bedroom, but it wasn't. We were having a group conversation and somebody mentioned this happening to them as a kid, and I burst into tears because I suddenly realised I remember that happening. I had in my bedroom, there was just like the single bed up against the window, and then I had that really tight cord carpet, really hard wearing carpet.
Yeah.
And I remember laying on the edge of my bed and looking over, and it was like a body was underneath the carpet, between the carpet and the floor, rolling round.
Jesus.
And I'd completely forgotten about that until somebody mentioned it happened to her. And that were another smack in the chest.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, I remember that. I remember thinking, how did they get under there? How's this up? What is it?
Yeah.
And I'd have only been, I was in a single bed, but I don't think I'd been in a single bed that long. So I was only little.
Yeah, that was
And then the next one on from that, which I thought was my first experience, was I'd get to sleep. My mum would leave the door ajar a little bit, and I was right at the bottom of the hallway next to the kitchen, and the lounge was up at the top because my dad had rebuilt a bungalow when him and my mum got married. He'd completely rebuilt it, so the lounge took all the front of the bungalow up, and then the hallway was down the middle, and he had like your toilet, bathroom, their bedroom, my bedroom, and the kitchen. So she'd leave the door ajar, and I'd get myself settled, and I'd watch the gap in the door, and I'd say they were about that big, and there were frames, like those really old-fashioned gilt frames you used to get for little pictures for wall.
Victorian ones, yeah.
Yeah, they were like that, and there'd be a series of 12 of them, and they'd have a portrait of a king or a queen in each one, and they'd be spaced out, and they'd come into the bedroom and go past me, going up and down like that. And then I knew when the last one came through and disappeared into the corner of the wall, I had to go to sleep. But there was the faces of kings and queens, like, say, back Queen Mary type.
Yeah,
back.
I get you, yeah.
And then there was like royal carriages as well on these pictures. And like I say, they just float up and down like that, all spaced out, one after another, and then they disappear into the corner of the wall, between the window and the wall. And then I knew I had to go to sleep when the last one came. There must have been about 12 of these pictures, and it did it night after night.
How strange.
I know. I mean, I've never heard a story like that before. Nobody, I've never
I haven't
heard anything like that, but that happened.
I wonder if they're your ancestors.
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, only ancestor I know I've got is Sir Francis Drake, but I don't know if any. I've not really looked into who was a royalty around that area or.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, I don't know, for me, the first one I remember, like you, I'd come out of my mum's bed and I was in the small room, and the way that the flat was laid out, it was like the flat was built pre-war, yeah. So there was no central heating in it or anything like that. We didn't have an indoor toilet or an
metal windows.
Metal windows, yeah. It used to freeze up in winter. It was awful, Deb.
Yeah.
So you had like the living room, and there was a tiny little cupboard off it. That was the bedroom, and then we had like a single kitchen that just had a sink in it and a hutch. Yeah. And then this long lobby, and my mum's bedroom was right at the end of the long lobby. And it was more scary for me to stay in my room than it was to run down that lobby. And I used to have this little routine. I'd get myself ready. I'd get ready in bed. I'd tuck my nightie between my legs like that and hold it. And as he started coming out of the wall, I'd run. Yeah. I'd be out that door as fast as I could. But all my mum saw was a naughty toddler.
Yeah.
She dragged me out and put me back in bed. He always came out of the same crack in the wall. It were here. Yeah. And he'd click and he'd clack like he was made out of rock, and he'd land on my bed. And then it was just terrifying. So me and our Jackie coloured it in with a black. At first, I thought, I'll pull the paper off. He can't get through then. So I must have been trying to reason to make it stop even as a kid. So it was like I neglected her. So I picked it all off. She went mental. She went mad. And our Jackie stuck a poster over it, like, and she was like, right, nothing will come in now. I think it was David Cassidy or someone like that. Yeah. And I was so excited that night. I had a bath, I got my new jams on and everything on. I was like, oh yeah, and I went to bed and he come through it. It didn't matter. So I coloured it in with a black pen, tried to make him stop. And it wouldn't make him stop. And he just got scarier and scarier and scarier. And then he turned into like these wolves.
Right, yeah.
They were wolves. They were like dogs, and then I'd kick at them, and like I'd be like mad, so they'd get scarier. Like their eyes would be yellow, or like at the end, they ended up these robotic metallic things. And I used to dream like you about wolves chasing me. I used to have awful dreams that I was being chased through the forest, over the moor now, trying to run to get away from him. It was horrible, horrible. And my dad had the same dreams. My dad had the same problem. And he had night terrors. My dad had night terrors right up to him passing away. And my last one was not yesterday, the day before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the things that happen to you as a kid, it's quite scary.
My mum and dad just sort of like, they just kind of brushed over it quickly, and it wasn't really something, I was just seen as naughty, and I wasn't naughty, I was terrified.
Yeah.
It just, do you remember with the programme Witchy Poo? With Tim Magic Flute and all of that?
Oh, yeah.
That one. Yep. Well, do you remember the witch in it? She was horrible, weren't she? Yeah. And there was one day, it was dark in the corner of the room. And like you, when the sun went down, as soon as it hit the windowsill, I'd get in bed.
Yeah.
Because I knew they were coming, like. And my sister always wanted to stay up as late as possible. So we'd always argue, like there's 3 years between us. So we'd argue because I wanted to go sleep straight away so they couldn't come out and get me. And she didn't live with us permanently. So she'd only come like for a weekend or something, and she'd go. So I'd be like stuck for my own for the weekend.
Yeah.
On my own, like trying to deal with it kind of thing. And it was this black thing that used to be in the corner. There was like an old built-in cubbyhole thing that you put your clothes in, and that the press, as we called it, like that you put your clothes in. And he was in there. I knew he was in there, and I didn't know why he hated me, but I knew that he hated me because I could feel it coming off him.
Yeah.
This one day it turned into like that witch, and it went around the room, and it was cackling. It was making that noise, and I curled up in a ball. But I got so mad. I was so mad. Yeah, I hit it. I hit it with everything I had, and I would have only been about 5 or 6, and poof, it had gone, and it was like, oh,
I got rid of it.
I can fight back.
Yeah.
Fight back. Now, so I kind of knew what to do. So I started shrinking them down. Like as a kid, it's not a memory you want to have, is it?
No,
and
it's not.
You said yourself you were frightened of wolves, and you'd never seen an horror movie.
Not right back then. No. I mean, my mum wasn't really into horror movies. She more like, I think she went to see Psycho at Pictures when that first came out. But I think the next one to that was Halloween, like the psychological type. Yeah. She liked that kind of horror. She wasn't into monsters, and she thought it were all daft.
Well, it was only Hammer House about it back then, wasn't they, really?
Yeah.
And the cheese on it in Dead Corner. And I think that's why people do the side-eye when you say werewolf. Because that one, it's nothing like the thing in the, you know, in the Hammer House about it. It's just some 8 foot.
That was what made me realise that they existed. That was my trigger point when I first saw the one with Diana Dawes when they're in the house in the woods and all the family of werewolves. And she opened the curtains and that would have climbed up the drain pipe. All right, I mean, it's bloody cheesy when you look at it now. But back then, I just kind of went, they do exist.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. I just knew that they did.
I've spoken to so many kids the same, or adults who said what you said. Like, I used to be terrified of wolves as a kid, and then I'm trying to think, what was her name? Polly, Staffordshire.
Yeah.
Do you remember her? She was going to a care home to look after someone later on in, I think it was 2020, in that summer. And she said herself that she always had an irrational fear, and that she was once walking with her dad in the fields, and she saw what you would describe as a werewolf. And her dad said it was Irish wolfhound and not to worry about it. And a mate did that thing. You remember, they used to sell dodgy videos and that out the back of the box shop, come round on the estate, and you'd buy them. Mark used to do that. So you can take them off what you wanted, like, and they'd lend them you for a week. The video was in the boot.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Said, oh, yeah.
That's the one.
And she said, a mate said, you want to come round and watch this, and showing it, and it was the American Werewolf in London. And she went, that's exactly what I saw in that field.
Yeah.
But he was stood upright on 2 legs. Like, the memories some of us have, you know, Deb, it's not. The hitchhiker effect, it's like, has it been around forever? Has it been there, frightening us forever? Steve asked me that over Fred. Was it always there on that land? And I think, it probably was. I think it probably was. Yeah. There was a strange serendipity with that, you know, Deb. I've not worked, obviously, he passed away in the January.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really much more I could do on it. And they pulled the farm down very quickly. The farm got pulled down.
Right.
And I remember Glassy going back and him saying to me, it's not here, Deb. It's definitely not. You can feel it. It feels different. It's gone. So Wednesday last week, I sat down with a chap, and I knew he was from a similar area, but I'd not spoken to him before.
Just excuse me, I'm bleeding. I need to sort this out. I won't be.
I'll
still be here. I'll just go off camera.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry about it. So I'm chatting away to this guy, and he says to me, I know where the farm was. And I said to him, well, you're better than me because I can't pinpoint it on the map. And he said, no, I know where it was. And for about 20 years, he's been researching on one side of the 3 counties, as Glassy's been researching on the other side of the 3 counties.
Right.
Don't know each other. Glassy's he calls what he's chased the 3 counties werewolf. And this guy says exactly the same thing. So they're talking about the same areas. They're talking about similar sightings. And what he reported me kind of fits in a little bit with the Moncton tale.
Yeah.
A beater on one of the shoots. I've not got my notes on me, so if I get any of this wrong, I'm sorry. I will correct it when I
hold it against you.
Yeah, I've only just sat and, you know, and I've not even transcribed it yet, Deb, so it's not gone home. And it was a lot of information to take in the one day. But basically, I've applied under the Freedom of Information Act because one of the beaters went back in and was, as far as I'm aware, when he was found later, he was dead in a very strange state. Right. There was nothing about it in the newspapers or anything like that. It was all hush-hush. So like I say, I'm waiting on the Freedom of Information to come back on that, and then I can share it. But I was thinking I'll put a quick video out on it with just the details, and then when I get back, I'll see what'll happen. They kind of tied into the Moncton case. You were actually the one who started researching that way before me. I got into it because of a witness. A witness came forward and said to me, like, Deb, she'd seen something being dragged in off the road, Debbie.
Right.
This big carcass, like a donkey-sized cow carcass in the road. So I kind of grabbed it and pulled it in.
Right.
And I'd started on it because a lady contacted me. When she was younger, she'd stayed at a friend's house and they should have gone camping. And they went out to get like munchies from Tesco with the girl's dad. And when they came back, the tent had been ripped to smithereens. And she shared with me that she'd shared an account with Paul Sinclair because she works on the base, the aero base. And for anyone who don't know, you've got the aerospace there and you've got the airport there. And there's a road called Main Street that runs down there too. And
Prestwick Airport, isn't it?
Yeah, Prestwick Airport. So my dad normally, he works at the base and he would normally wait at the gate for her. And that morning he didn't. So she had to walk into the office and that's when she saw it.
Yeah.
And she said it crawled out of the shed.
Yeah.
Across the ground. And just like the idea of it. It was the same year that 2 police officers made a report of the Ayrshire baboon. I think it was within weeks before. Yeah. So that was in the newspapers. And that led me to the missing woman in Monkford. And there was an old man went, Deb, 3 weeks before.
Yeah, you see, I didn't know that until you said that, yeah.
I had to dig deep. It took me about 12 months to find it. I just kept digging and digging. I found 2 women at first that had gone missing between 2021 and 2022. Both walking the dogs, just poof, vanished, never to be seen again. Then I found a young lad, probably in his 30s, similar thing. He was going from his house to a friend's house, never been seen again. All in Prestwick.
Yeah.
And then I found the old man, he was 74, and it was 3 weeks before she went missing in the field.
Right.
And never been seen since.
Just completely vanished.
Gone, completely gone. Just he was last seen walking down his normal road. He's come out of the house, walked down the road, and that's it. Gone. That's 4 people in a 2-year period that
in a small area
within 2 miles of each other, and it's not in the local newspapers.
Yeah, well, there was nothing on that lady from I know she wasn't originally from Monkton.
No, she wasn't.
She'd come from the other side. She'd about 53 miles away.
Yeah.
But there was nothing, no reports from up there or any reports in Monkton. I even joined 2 Monkton Facebook pages. I was asked why, and I said, my auntie's thinking of moving there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get to the bottom of anything.
I dug and dug and dug, and I got one reporter to speak to me on Twitter, and he said the only thing he could give me that wasn't attached to the case was in the newspapers, and I found the quote, and it said the car wasn't registered to her.
Right.
So she supposedly phoned the RAC or the AA, and they've come out, she's not been in that car.
Yeah.
Why she got out of it? Why would you get out of the car?
I mean, if you needed a pee, you'd open the side nearest to the edge and pee between the doors, or you
wouldn't go a mile over fields in the pitch black without on your face.
No,
it doesn't make sense.
There were lots of that report that didn't make any sense.
Well, it's a closed case. No suspicious circumstances. No one's looking into. It's over, as are the 4 missing people, all closed. None of them have ever been found, by the way, but those cases are closed as well. It's
mad. I noticed just before I lose it in the chat, Marmite said, addressed to me, have you come across any Wakefield sightings? I'm looking at that area, especially north side. My brother's sighting was there and we saw stuff growing up. That would be more Deborah's. Deborah would probably know if there's any Wakefield sightings because she's the one that gets the sightings.
Yeah, there is, and I haven't got my bloody laptop on me. My data's not great in this house for lives, so I can't open my laptop. If I do, I'll go off.
Yeah, you'll lose everything.
Email me, definitely. And I know of a werewolf account in Wakefield, and I've been trying to get somebody to go out and investigate it and speak to the witness for me. I've given it to about 4 or 5 other people, and every single one of them's let me down. So it was 2 lads in a car with 2 girls doing what 2 lads in a car with 2 girls do. When the girls noticed something at the back. So a similar situation to what you were saying, courting couples. Worked a few cases like that, to be honest. And these things come to look at the car. I think it was called Devil's Hole. It was Devil something, because I remember thinking, bloody hell, that crops up a lot in what's that name? And the witness, his sister, did a massive amount of work on it. So she's done everything that she can do that I would normally do. And she's kind of handed it to me and said, Deb, I've done everything I can think of. Yeah. They experienced paranormal stuff as children as well. So I think it's connected to the family in some way. I would love to get an investigator up there and just go and sit in a car at the same time of night in the same spot. And let's just see what happens. You know, if you
Lucy's in chat, she'll come with me. We'll do it.
Just what is it about that area? What's the area feel like when you're there? Do you know, all of that's got to be done. It's great. You get a lot of people, don't you, on YouTube, and they take these cases and they put them in the books or they put them in the documentary, and then there's no follow through.
Yeah. No investigation or anything. It's just
you got to get your feet on the ground and get in there. And I don't just mean like technically. I mean, get your feet on the ground. What is it about this area that people are experiencing?
Yeah.
What was it for? What was it 400 years ago? You know, what was it 5,000 years ago? What was there?
What was there? Yeah.
And then just the connection between, I think it was right near a cemetery as well and very close to the sewage work, which actually crops up quite a lot.
Yeah, sewage works are a bit.
It does. But where I had my experience in close to Cutacre, where I used to live, and things started coming right close to the house, it was bang on the bloody sewer. There's nothing out there because there's a big sewerage and nobody wants to live near it. So there's just like fields and fields and fields. The ideal place to be, isn't it? The Greenbelt land.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, look at Eschol. That was just one little bit that me and you went to. But if you go to other sides of that, once you're in there, there's nothing. It's just paths and trees and gullies, and there's nothing else. And that wood goes on for miles. It goes into different areas, but it's all part of Eschol, and it's absolutely huge.
I've seen a question, and let me see if I can put it up. Hopefully I can. Oh yeah, I think it's there, isn't it? And it said, is Dogman an ancient creature that's always been here? I'm thinking of like Anubis or the jackal-headed thing. Is it a demon or is it created in a lab? Well, I think Deb's like me. We have a similar feeling to that. I don't think there's just one Dogman creature. I don't think it's just this one creature. I think there are different things going on, and we've got that description of that dog-like thing. So you've got like Anubis, haven't you? You've got Cynocephalus and the Benandante. So they've always been here in history. Some of them are very Hammer House of Horror. Ears on top of the head, claws, blue and white check shirt, the whole 9 yards. You know what I mean? The rich jeans.
Yeah.
That. Then you've got like more of like a human body, hands and feet, completely hair covered with like a dog's head on it. So like this wolf-headed thing, like a wolf man. And then these like hybridized, almost weaponized. One witness described it as having weaponized hands. So this hybrid thing that's been made on one of the military bases. Me and Deb earlier were talking about Danesdyke and Bempton. And I think what you've got going on there is, in Danesdyke, whatever it is ancient. On Bempton, there's been some
military
interface, something fucker is what I was going to say.
You like that?
At that base. Something's gone on at that base. Far too many people who are not connected to each other have had experiences on that base.
Yeah.
And after we went camping there, didn't we? We stayed in a caravan park. And I have to tell people, we didn't stay in Butlins. It wasn't one of them caravan parks where there's like loads of kids running about or any of that. It was the middle
out of season.
It was really cold. It was right cold. My lips were chapped.
Windy.
From when I left there.
Yeah.
It was freezing. And we went the first night we went out, didn't we? We had a mooch around because you do, don't you? And you want to go and see
climatise
where all sighting reports have been and that. And we went to Danesdyke in the day, not a problem. Really nice place. Beach is lovely. Loads of hagstones everywhere. Absolutely gorgeous.
It's full of hagstones, isn't it?
But driving past it, there's a waft that comes off it like this. Woof.
Yeah.
And the first night when we turned in the dark, oh my God. I felt really silly, me, because all the time I'm thinking, right, I'm Deborah Hatswell, so these people are on holiday with me. They're either going to expect loads of cryptids to follow us around everywhere, they're going to be dead disappointed when it doesn't happen. Or if something does happen, are they thinking that I've kind of hoped?
She saw it.
Yeah, like I've said to Mark, right, Mark, this is where we're going to be now, get in them woods kind of thing. Like, I always worry about that, Deb, because you know what I mean? I've had a lifetime of not being believed. So as we went to pull in, I felt something grab me around the neck. It felt like the weight of a million men on my chest. I knew he was killing me, and he was putting me in the ground. And I'm trying to have I thought, I've got to say something.
Talk my way out of it.
And I looked, and everybody else was like that.
Yeah.
Including the driver.
Yeah, it was awful.
It lifted, didn't it, as you went in the car park?
Yeah. That drop down, and even going past Endot Road, every time we had to go past the end of the road to get to Flamborough or whatever, that sick headache feeling just kind of wafted over you, and then for the length of the wide bit of just weird, really weird.
It was a well, I actually invited Emma out. Emma met us when we went to Harrogate. Do you remember?
Yes, yeah.
She came out, and she's from Yorkshire herself, and she's said, I really wanted to come out when you and Deb were there, like to meet me and you, but she couldn't. So she booked in with a girlfriend, Sarah.
Yeah.
And they went, I think, a few months after us, after we went.
Yeah, it was not long after though.
No, and she actually got something on film, but unfortunately, it's really dim light and you can't see what's moving, but it was moving in a similar way to other stuff that's been filmed down there. And you couldn't smoke in the caravan, could you? So me and you got into the habit of having a fag beside us.
A fag and a brew on step.
A fag and a brew on step. So we go to Danes Dyke at the night, and I feel like I'm being strangled and killed, and everybody else feels the same. And a big crowd of them went off down to the beach, and Deb was determined that she was staying in, and it's thick woods, right? You can't see your hand in front of your face. No, you can't. And she's like, no, I've got to do it on my own. I've got to. And I think you felt like there was something you had to face, didn't you? When you were there?
There was, and I couldn't have explained why at the time. I just knew that as soon as my feet got out of that car, that's where I was stopping.
Mm. But you got pushed, didn't you? Like physical hands-on again.
Pushed off the whatever it was, the other side of the car, and pushed me off the wing because I was bent over. I didn't know if I was going to be sick or not. I think a few of us had that sick, all of a sudden overwhelming nausea. And then, like I say, I was lent on the car, kind of holding my stomach and bent over, and I thought, oh, I think I might be able to stand up now. And as I went to stand up, it just whacked the other side of the car and threw me off the side of the car. And I spun round with my torch, and I was fully expecting to see a dog man stood there in like muscles and absolutely nothing. And that was looking towards the cafe side.
But you could hear mumbling, couldn't you? Like a mumbling.
Could hear the blokes talking, yeah. Like 2 or 3 blokes, deep voices, chattering, and they like, oh God, I'm bleeding like mad now. Like I said, when you went down the hill towards the sea, I could hear that near the cafe. Yeah. And then as you came back up and shouted, "Are you all right?" Yeah. And you went back up the hill, I could hear it from the direction that you'd come from the sea end.
There was something on the ridge above us, and whatever it was incredibly scornful. It wasn't frightened of us in any way, shape or form. In fact, we were like these tiny little humans. It couldn't give a shit about us.
Yeah.
And it was just pacing that ridge. Yeah, just scornfully thinging that ridge. And it's nothing to do with the dead girl who's at the entrance. That's domestic, and that went on in the 70s.
Yeah.
But that thing makes people do bad stuff at Danes Dyke or around, or when they leave.
Yeah.
It leaves with them and influences the behaviour. So I'd imagine there've been a few suicides in the area. I've never looked at it, or don't want nothing to do with the place. So I'm going to be honest, I threw up. I threw up and I peed. I was that frightened. I literally peed. So I had to tie my coat around my waist to get back.
Yeah.
We go in the caravan, I've got to strip my bottoms off and get cleaned up and everything. And Deb had made me a brew. And everyone was chatting, and I just needed a minute. So I went outside for a fag, and Deb's outside for a fag. And I saw it out the peripheral vision of my eye, and I thought, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm looking over your shoulder and thinking, Jesus, what's that?
There's no way of dressing it up. I just thought, oh, for fuck's sake. It was either like the top of the caravan window height, and it looked round the caravan like that really quickly. And as I went to say it, you went, we need to go in, there's something. But we're looking in opposite directions.
No,
So something was there over my shoulder and something was there over your
that's
shoulder.
why.
And
That's why I think there were more than one.
it ran between the caravans really fast. Like,
Oh,
like
this didn't. It was
really
like
fast.
it was like looking round the end down to where our caravan was. It was like stood looking round the end, and as I kind of glanced at it, it moved back out of view, but I could see the edge of it, like it had one eye looking round the side of the caravan. But that must have been the same height as the window.
It was. Whoa, I had to sleep in the for anybody I had to sleep, you know, in the
In the lounge bit.
I sleep in that thing because I never sleep. I keep people awake all night, so it's like I sleep in the living room bit. But that caravan walls is just cardboard.
Yeah.
And all night, all I could think about was like something could be that close to me, and I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the oddest night.
It was, and I was so ill when I went home. I was so ill. And
you looked poorly when we left.
Yeah, all my lips chapped up. I've never had. Someone said, "Oh, it's just a sea air." I live like 30 minutes from the sea. I get a lot of sea air. No, never like that. I couldn't eat or anything. I had to put beeswax on my lips. And I'm telling you, something attached to me there. It was the probably 12 months after that was the worst 12 months of my life.
Yeah.
And it's gone and it's over and done with, but I wouldn't tempt it by going back at me. I just know whatever's there is too strong for me.
Yeah.
But you got to admit your enemies. You think like, nah, that's too much for me to deal with on my own.
Yeah, I'll leave that where it is. But I don't know. There's pockets. Don't you find that there's pockets?
Yeah. Of like
Cannock sightings and.
Yeah, it's like Cannock. There's bits of Cannock that's absolutely fine, beautiful, in fact. Yeah. I went first time I went down there. I went to meet Steve Hevigan because Steve, I think 2017, the winter of 2017 or the spring of 2018, he just on a whim went to Cannock. Like, I'm just going to go and have a walk. I've had a listen. He's had experiences his entire life of being a little boy, paranormal in nature, and he went for a wander around and he said it was really strange in there, Debbie. All the birds stopped singing and it was just this silence came over and it was just like this dread. Like he knew that he was going to see something. And there was that heavy thud on the land. And he could hear whatever it was following him around, like you when you went to near Crowley's. So, and he said whatever it was, it walked him out of the woods.
Yeah.
So I went down to meet him down there and a few people came out to meet us and all that. There was a lad coming down from Manchester, say a lad, he was in his 30s. And he'd come down the day before because the bus fare were cheaper. And he'd come overnight. He wanted to try it out for himself. And he said to me, last night, had a right weird night. He said, thank God I heard about the Go Ape Centre this morning because I'm not as scared now. I said, why, what happened? He went, something was whooping like a monkey all night round my tent. I was like, there aren't any apes at the Go Ape Centre.
No, it's an adventure place, isn't it? And
I went, no, it's just for climbing like through trees. There's no apes there or anything like that. So that night, GPE stayed and another lad, a lad from down Thetford, stayed. And I was at home and Glenn thought I was having him on, thought I was down there like screaming and messing about around the tent. And I'm like, I swear to God, I'm at home in Manchester in bed. Yeah. He said someone was messing about around the tent kind of thing. So it was a nice area. But when you moved out of Hensford and went towards Pye Green Tower, it changed completely.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
It just completely changed. It was an awful feeling. It was like, plus knowing that they've seen like a pig like man thing down there, that doesn't
all sorts.
It doesn't help, does it? And we sat there having a brew, Deb, and there's loads of us, and the next thing, this big black thing just came over the skyline, and I was like, and then it turned and it were a big black ether. Yeah, but when it first come over that thing, I seen everyone look at me like it was my fault.
You've summoned that.
Yeah, it's her fault. Everywhere she goes, werewolves follow her. Kind of get used to that, don't you? But yeah, it was not something we'd do again. But we had a laugh, me and you, didn't we?
We did. It was nice. It was nice to spend time together, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We had a good
Apart
laugh.
from all horrible bits in between.
Yeah, all
Scary bits. But I mean, Dane's diet during the day and at night are just it's like two completely different places.
I didn't like Benson, to be honest. I just
No, you didn't.
wanted to go in on myself when I was at Benson. And I think the next day, when we went back in the car and everyone was going for a wrecker, I purposely stayed in the car and went to sleep. I just couldn't do any more of it. It was just like, I couldn't wait to get the energy off me.
Well, that night, didn't we were walking along the path and we thought one of the other members were behind us because we kept looking round. We thought they were behind us.
Torch,
and we were in front of us. Yeah, with torch swinging and like it was almost like a beige coloured Mac, wasn't it? That they had on it was like a beige shape. But we thought with the torchlight,
he ran right up to the back of you, didn't it? Like as if he was going to move you off the path. That's how.
Yeah, it shone the torch at my feet, like from behind my feet out to the front, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And I'm thinking it's one of the other members, and he were in front, and we were last two behind. I'm like, oh, it wasn't.
But there was another guy got in touch with my ex-police officer again, and he was staying in one of the caravan sites down there. And he said him and his missus looked like Twilight, and they could see these things in the field, exactly like Sarah and Emma said. And these things were moving up and down in the cornfield. He said they were like, it was almost like they were playing hide and seek. They were keeping their eye on us at all times. Yeah. And it was the way that they moved and everything. Well, Sarah went home and things started to happen around. Yeah. She said she was picking up on him. She was getting quite a strong feeling of him. And it was getting closer and closer. So like the hitchhiker effect again. Yeah. I bet there's loads of witnesses that have been to that area and we just don't know about them. You know?
Where did you mention earlier? You mentioned somewhere in video.
Was it? What did I do in the video? I did. Was it Kirklees Abbey? And I got it wrong.
Yeah, no, that was Kirkstall Abbey. No, it was somewhere when you were on about sightings and stuff. You mentioned about not far away, and you mentioned a place, and I thought there's not just. I was going to tell you then. But there's not just there. Not far from there is
Bramham. Spa.
There's Bramham and Boston Spa. That's the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same area. It's kind of in between.
We used to go through Boston Spa on the motorbike, and just when you get to the turn off for Bramham, we used to take another road. But that area, I could see something in that being in that area.
It was something he did every night. He said it was about half-day. He worked. It was a trade. I think he worked on like a brickhead on buildings. And he said, I'd get the dog, and every night, that bit between work and settling down, I'd take him for a walk in farm fields and bring him home. And he said it was just this one night, it was about 8:30, it was dusk, not dark, but going on dusk. And the dog started reacting really weird, so he thought maybe it was like a deer or a fox or something. Yeah. And he's looking like low down and he can't see out. He said, and the next thing I look, and this thing steps out of the woodland. Now, this guy's not wrote a book. He's not got a YouTube channel. And when I spoke to him, it was like way back in the early 2000s. So this happened to him in the late 1998. He had nothing to gain from this. The only thing he gained from it was ridicule because he worked on a building site and his mates would have ripped the shit out of it.
All right, yeah, definitely.
Instead, it had massive shoulders and chest. It was really dark in colour, all dark in colour. And I said to him, could you see any features? And he went, no. It managed to keep its face away from me, but I distinctly remember it looked to the left and said no, as if something else was in there waiting to kind of walk out.
Right.
That's I think that's a really important sighting.
Yeah.
Because it didn't come after 2015 when Finding Bigfoot were here and it was a household name and all that. He never called it a Bigfoot. He never gave it that name.
No.
And he said years and years later, while he was trying to find out what he'd seen, because he didn't just experience that. I think it was many, many years later, probably 10, 15 years later, when he'd be out and he'd see running dark things in the woodland.
Right, yeah.
That's normally like the next step up that happens. He kind of amps up to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he backed away because of it, because things started happening closer to home. And I said to him, like I say to everybody else, you can either shut it down now, and let's just it and put it to bed, or we'll find the tools to help you investigate it. And he just wanted to shut it down because obviously he had kids and he didn't want it around the house, which is understandable. But like, he had nothing to gain from sharing that.
No, I think you have to. I mean, I seriously wouldn't have been able to put a name on what I saw, and I still think now I don't know 100% what it was. Was it a Bigfoot? Was it a dogman? I'm really not sure. But the shape of I did draw it at the time. I can't find the drawing now, but the shape of it, where there's kind of like no neck, would have led me to think maybe more Bigfoot than dogman.
I have one regret in my career, my entire career, is it letting people tell me what I saw was a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell he was. I don't know what he was, right?
Yeah.
But he looked like Heidelbergensis to me. He looked like a caveman of some kind of area and all of that. And it was really popular to use the word Bigfoot at the time. And I'm sorry about that, because like Bigfoot, it's for America, isn't it? It's the wrong word, but it's stuck now and people use it. And that's why I use it. Because when people are searching for the stories, they're looking for British Bigfoot. But somebody else could have looked at what I saw and said it was dog-like, because that's how they perceived it. That's how seen it, kind of thing. Like, it's almost kind of boxed me in.
Yeah.
It has to be Bigfoot and it has to be flesh and blood. And it's like, no, it doesn't.
No, it don't.
It doesn't. It just, we have to be honest and say, I don't know what it was I saw. I have no idea. I don't want to see it again, but I don't know what it was. I don't know.
You see, the only reference back then in 93 that I would have had, the only thing that I would have seen was probably Patty.
Yeah.
Bluff Creek. So I was thinking of that and what I saw, there were two different things to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't even suspect that we had Bigfoot over here. I wouldn't have even known.
It wasn't hidden. It purposely shown itself to you. So it's not something that's trying to be elusive, is it? It's like, I am here and you will see me.
Yeah.
And I think that's something connected to our land.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
To our roots. And I was actually, somebody asked me in the group today if I felt that the British Bigfoot was in any way like a Neanderthal or something like that. And I was like, that's serendipity, because I'm actually writing a piece for the Bigfoot Quest magazine on that very fact.
Yeah.
Is a hominid of some kind. So you're like, years ago, I used to know it all off the top of my head. I had to go back and refresh myself, Deb, to make sure I got it right. As far as I can remember, the oldest fossilized human bone found dates to about 11,000 years ago.
Right.
But the earliest hominid bone found in the UK dates to about 15,000 years ago.
Right.
For that period of time, there were 4 hominids in the UK. So they've made their way from Africa and they've come in, one being Neanderthal, one being Heidelbergensis, modern humans, Homo sapiens, and another one I can't remember the name of.
Yeah.
And they were thought to have either exodus or assimilated or died off.
Right.
Now, my belief is that at that point there, this is where we get the British Bigfoot, the UK Wildman, whatever name you want to give him.
Yeah.
And we're like on a branch of that. So why wouldn't we tune into each other? Because we're similar in DNA,
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
We've got Neanderthal in us, and we know that a lot of human beings have Neanderthal gene within them. And that's only what we know on the fossil record. So we only know a tiny little bit, don't we?
Yeah.
But then they say to me, well, how does it act in a paranormal way? And I say, well, the word paranormal means I don't understand. So does it? That's what it means. I don't understand it, so I'm going to call it paranormal or supernatural.
Yeah.
I don't understand what it is. And I think I said to him, maybe they do things that we just don't understand. Maybe they acted the earth and the world in such a way that they can do these things that we see as supernatural, and then we box it off. But I said to him, we should never, ever, ever tell the witness what it is they've seen.
No, let them describe it and go with what they think they've seen.
What, Fleming? Or have I got any juice? Yeah. I need a drink of juice. I can feel my sugars going. I only had a nana, didn't I?
Yeah, you and your nana.
I'm all right by the end of the week. I set my new thingy on a Friday, and it makes me feel a bit queasy for about 48 hours. And then I'm fine. I'm just a week, I'm fine. But I weren't hungry, to be honest.
No, that's what I've been like tonight. I think I'll get my tea after we've done live stream.
I'm going to give
It'll involve a bit more cooking, but I'm getting hungrier now.
No, I was thinking we'll give it till 10 and then we'll call it a night. We'll give it a good. But yeah, we'll have to do it again. But I'll get back on.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, I was really grateful that you did those voice messages for me, because I think it's easier for the person to just talk than have to.
It is the typing it out. Sometimes you're going backwards and forwards and deleting stuff, whereas it's in your memory, and it's easier to come out via your voice, I think.
And sometimes you get nervous. So normally with me, I have to phone them once. I have a phone call with them, so they're used to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can set 4 or 5 goals before I actually get the interview. In this way, it's really easy. They're like, oh no, I'll leave you a voice note.
Yeah, because I don't have to sit there. I don't have to talk to you. I can just do it. Yeah,
I'd much rather
it is easier.
Just send me as many as you want, and I'll put them together. You know. But so we've had some cracking over the past few weeks. We've had some really good ones on where people themselves.
Yeah, it's been good. But there's always people out there with experiences, and there's always people as well. It's a bit like they're embarrassed to mention it, whereas I was more curious. And I mean, people were eye rolling when I was saying what I'd seen, and they're like, "Yeah, right," which they would, because you don't expect to see it.
I felt like it was something I'd done wrong. How dare I? How dare I? You know, that was honestly, that's what it felt like as a kid. And like, it was just a complete inconvenience. Like, why can you just not? You know, and it's just like, you didn't ask for it to happen.
No.
You know, did I tell you about the girl who got in touch with me, saw something at her grandma's? I don't think I phoned you and told you, did I?
I don't think you did, no.
About 6 months ago, I'm working away, and I get this message pop up. Hi, Deb. You don't know me, completely out of the blue, but I seen your story in the Observer. And can you tell me which part of Salford you were in when you saw him? So I said, yeah, not a problem. So I sent her the video over. And that's like, 1982, the whole 9 yards, seen him at Beulah, blah, blah, blah. She said to me, do you know where Athol Street is? I said, yeah, I do. It's right next to Chimney Pot Park. She went, right, 1982. I'm at my grandma's. My grandma lives in Athol Street. She said, and not one of my cousins was scared of that house, but I was. She said there was a place on the stairs. Absolutely terrified me. And it's a terrace step, so it's like parlour, living room, tiny kitchen, and then them stairs that turn. So you've got like 3 things. So she said, this one day, she turns and looks at the top of the stairs. She's with her gran. Her gran's roaming her. And she said, and as I turned, this thing was there. She went, and people always ask me if it was a werewolf, but it was more horrific than that. She said, it was that bad, I couldn't describe it to you, Deb. And he was black. She said, and my gran put her arm around my shoulder and said, it's all right, he can't hurt you. He can't hurt your child. Yeah, and he went. And she said, I was always really, really cautious of like that.
So a grandma never said what it was, or because it sounds like a grandma knew it were there or knew of it.
Well, she said years later, when her grandma dies, the house is left to no one, obviously, so they're having the funeral. She said, as that coffin turned onto the street, the massive gate just clanged, came off its hinges and hit the ground. She said, and I knew at that moment it was unleashed.
Yeah.
I think my nan had kept that
contained
in some way.
Yeah.
But it's within a quarter of a mile, Deb.
Yeah.
And like all hairs went up on back of my thing, and she was like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. And I was like, I thought I was the only one. I said, if only we'd have known each other back then.
Yeah. That's weird, isn't it?
Mm. Really similar circumstances. It was like, it was a proper like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe it kind of thing. Because don't get me wrong, Deb, meeting all of the other witnesses over the years was massive.
Yeah.
It really was, but they were adults when they had that experience.
Yeah.
One of them was.
Different to being a child, isn't it?
Yeah, she was like me. So she's from the same kind of upbringing as I am. And like, I got looked down on a lot when I was a kid for a lot of reasons. People had, ask them, they've got loads.
Yeah.
But she felt the same. You know, you don't ask what family you're born into. Your cards are dealt, aren't they? You know?
Yeah, of course they are.
And she felt exactly the same, and she felt the kind of shame of it.
Yeah.
And I said to her, what if it is in our bloodline, in each of our bloodlines, like in your bloodline or in Jojo's bloodline, or, you know, Brian, Mike's, what if it is? And it's something that's happened for generations.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only been like the past 300-400 years where it's been shameful to talk about it.
Yeah.
Beforehand, it was probably just accepted, you know, the woodwind kind of thing. I think it was just accepted, wasn't it? And I always blame it on the Romans, but I think I can't blame the Romans for everything. But something happened in history where we stopped learning about the woodwose.
Yeah.
And like these werewolf reports in Ireland, didn't they, that go back forever?
Yeah.
And Wales and Scotland. But I didn't know that until I was an adult.
No.
We're just not taught about it, are we? So there's millions of people out there seeing these things, all thinking they're on their own, and yet we're here on Saturday night having a gab about it, and they're out there on their own.
I know. This is why we need to be out here telling people.
We do.
You're not on your own.
They're not, are they? That's it. I say to them now, I used to think we were in the minority. I really did. Those people didn't fit in, that were just a bit left of society. You know, you were that kid that fidgeted at school or daydreamed or whatever name they wanted to give it, you know. Yeah. We were that kid. But we're not the minority, we're the majority. It's the normals, the ones that plug into X Factor kind of thing, you know, that never, ever, ever look away from the screen. I think they're the minority.
Yeah, I agree.
I really, really do.
There seem to be an awful lot of people now that are more accepting of this sort of stuff than before. I've noticed that.
Stories are similar, aren't they?
Yeah. I met someone recently and he's into all this sort of stuff, and you wouldn't, to look at him, you wouldn't expect it, but he's into it.
That's it. It's just I get shocked by it. So sometimes when I speak to like new TV producers or something like that, you've really got to explain. You've got to give them that much content. It gets a bit monotonous. But I've met quite a few in the last 12 months where they've been really into the subject.
Yeah, so they know it.
Yeah, on the quiet, Deb, I usually haven't listened to you on a Saturday and stuff. So we're still on the quiet level, but it's there, in it, you know. People
still the interest.
Yeah, there's still the interest there. So like I could see it changing. There's some cracking documentaries coming out over next year. Some that I'm in, but some where I've just resourced the witnesses for him and said, right, you need to go to Leicester. There's like 3 witnesses there within a 5-mile radius kind of thing. Yeah. So it'll grow. It'll get massive. It will really. You know.
That's what I like to hear.
On that note, I'm going to go just so I can have my meds and get myself tucked back in bed.
Yes. Seeing as everybody dragged him out of it.
No, it was bloody lovely catching up with you, Deb.
It was
lovely. Mark's there with his head. Think, what you watching, Bear? Oh, Spider-Man, I should have guessed.
Spider-Man.
So it's from lovely Deb from Yorkshire, an ordinary Deb. I will bid you farewell, and I will be back at the same time. Not next week. I'm off next week. I've just remembered. I'm not around next Saturday, but I'll be around the Saturday after, and I'll do a live stream. And if Deb wants to pop on, I'll give him a okie dokie. So until next time, everyone. Good night.
Hopefully see you tomorrow night on my video premiere at 8 o'clock.
Hell yeah, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
I will go and get the link to your channel now, and I will put it up on my community page for anyone who needs it. You're very welcome. I shall see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.